Who?
Mrs. Iser,
Mrs. Dizer.
Mrs. Iser, yeah, Sauber, Iser, Skidmore, Rudd,
Oh,
Smith.
yeah, yeah.
There you go.
I'll tell you what.
Sometimes they switch it up.
So anyway, we'll have to talk Wednesday.
You feel comfortable?
I'll see how they talk Wednesday.
Okay.
It's going to affect soccer a little bit. Which has been playing.
Oh, so there were,
They're aware of it. 4 games between August 1st and August 12th that he'll have to bring somewhere else. If it goes.
but you're saying he knows about that.
And she
Well,
knows
that's a nice microphone, I'll tell you.
the big thing.
I don't pick them up.
Hopefully.
It's like a little watermelon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's aware that it might happen, so
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, I said, I think we'll get pretty close to
I've been checking. Constantly texting, get an update, finally today, got with me. Shaw has the yacht, or we were waiting on the yacht. They do have the yacht,
Did you?
but they don't have it tufted. Assembled. So.
Okay. Eric.
You judge Shaw.
Oh. Wow, okay.
cheerleading camp videos. They begged to go to camp. It's a 3-day. That was the, that's where you're supposed to goes every day. That one, she does the memory. She's ready to get outside and play. Big microphone.
All right, everybody, it is 6 o'clock exactly. Thank you for showing up tonight for the July 11th, 2022 regular meeting of the Valley View Board of Education. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda item 3. Would you please take the roll?
Mr. DeBrow.
Here.
Mrs. Iser.
Here.
Mr. Rudd.
Here.
Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Dr. Smith.
Here.
So I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to agenda item 3A. We have a presentation by South Community. Ms. Lisa Carter is here representing them and will be presenting the board. Lisa?
Thank you. As I get situated here. I do have a couple of handouts that I want to
Absolutely.
present to the board, and also my card. You might desire to call and have needs out of tonight or at any time. So first of all, if you don't mind, I'm so sorry, start with you when you're trying to get your glasses clean there. Apologize. Maybe just take one. The first thing is just an updated sheet of who South Community is, all the services we provide. Felt like that was important for you as a board to have that within your hands tonight. And then the proposal of what we have been talking about with Kevin and with Ben before he left, and then back to you all for this evening. So I apologize in advance if anything's redundant from what Kevin may have shared with you last board meeting, but I hope that what I say tonight will meet your needs and open up for also certainly for any questions, okay? So again, my name is Lisa Carter, and I'm Chief Executive Officer at South Community Incorporated, and it is our pleasure to be your provider of mental health services to the, to Valley View, to your community. I appreciate that. I want you to know how much that we value our partnership with you. I also want to apologize in the sense that we had great staffing challenges this past year. I can tell you it's part pandemic, and that's true, but I can also tell you that our environment, our industry, mental health, substance use in that arena is a very competitive environment. We had staffing challenges before, maybe not in Valley View, but before COVID, we had them in COVID, and I call this our next normal because we're not completely out of the pandemic, but we still have those challenges. Right now, at this juncture, we are fully staffed for you for the fall. And so I know for myself, I am so grateful for that. And at the same time, on behalf of South Community, I do want to apologize that we had staffing challenges for your district. While I believe that we did our best to try to cover, it wasn't good enough. And so we had several meetings. In fact, I was part of 3, would have been part of any and every meeting moving forward to make sure that we did what? One, that we strategized, that we talked about where we were able to cover, we talked about the challenges that we were having, and then we sought to look at strategy. How can we work long-term in the district, not only from staffing and services that South provides, but as your partner, how do we make that sustainable for you in the future from a cost perspective as well? So first of all, I'd like to ask you, do you have any questions about the staffing, or just leave any questions to the end? Okay. Governor DeWine, as part of our challenges that we have in our industry here in the state, there was a study that was done through OMOS, Mental Health and Addiction Services, through the governor, and his last budget and also the current budget put money into workforce development. So it really is not just a South issue, but it is the issue that we care about, which is how we support you as a district. Okay, so 2.4 million Ohioans live in counties right now that do not have enough mental health professionals. And on that analysis of 88 counties, only 2 counties did not have issues like what we're experiencing. And so those were Franklin County and Cuyahoga. Makes sense in some ways, when you look at the, what those counties in terms of population, where they are with, colleges and universities. But I want you to know, and I think it's important for you as a board to know, that we have strong relationships with the colleges and universities that we serve, not only in our local region, but also with OSU, with several of the online universities, where practicums and internships can make sense. And I felt like that was important for you to understand. Where are we in the community? Where are we in our recruiting? And what, again, we're fully staffed, so that is good news, as I present to you tonight. So as Ben and Kevin, myself as CEO, Jackie Price as our Chief of Operations, and Stephanie Stratton as our Program Director for School Programs, we met on 3 occasions. Again, first, to talk first and foremost, the present school year, strategies, how we were not just going to get through it. We care about your children, the students that are in your district. How are we going to care for them? And then also, Ben brought up several times about funding, which he should, as superintendent, and I know he's not here now, and as you continue to move forward, and what you need as a board. So what I have on the second page, if we could turn to that, is the proposal. And we started talking about, longer term. I know when we were here, I think we've been here at least from 2015-16 school year. Previous to that, we were here years before and we're not. So we've had, again, a long-standing relationship. But I look back over that, and we started with 1 therapist. Then we grew to 2 therapists. Then we grew to 3 therapists, which was the present challenge that we had. So you as a board and as a community have recognized the need of mental health. You've recognized the need for services, and again, our partnership in being able to provide that. But as we were talking about student, and forgive me if I don't get this exactly right, but the wellness and success dollars that was infused into education, we understand that those are not long-term, and I think they're maybe even funneled in different ways at present time. So what we did, if you allow me to walk through this, was that our purpose was that we would have discussions centered on the staffing, the vacancies, the coverage, and the sustainability longer term. And our reason, which I've already talked to you about, in part was our extremely challenging year that we had in terms of staffing, but also in looking at demographics and looking at our caseload snapshots. Were there some strategies that we could come together with you and formulate a plan on a different type of funding? And so what we have determined, at least in our meetings, and I think what Kevin has probably presented to you, is that South Community would take on what we would assume more responsibility in the risk category. In other words, if you have a child in your district that is Medicaid eligible, we're doing that now, right? We're billing Medicaid to the degree that a child is Medicaid eligible, that our services meet the needs, are part of their treatment plan and can be covered by Medicaid. So we're broadening that for you in the sense that we would still be billing Medicaid as appropriate. We would bill commercial plans if we're credentialed with them. Right now, we're credentialed with Anthem and United Healthcare. We are looking at Medical Mutual as being our 3rd, but we do not have a contract with them yet. But there are folks in your community that may have those commercial plans. Then again, South Community is saying we would work with the family around what their plan would be and provide services in that way. There's also county subsidy. Every county in the state has subsidy through mental health recovery boards or alcohol, drug addiction, mental health services boards. Ours for Montgomery County, they hold what's called a county subsidy. And so to qualify, it's based on family size and income. So if a person has, or a family has no insurance, we're not in the marketplace insurance plans, but no insurance commercially, they don't qualify, or for whatever reason maybe did not inquire about Medicaid, they could, based on family size and income, get some subsidy to cover mental health services in your district. And then finally, there are, under the commercial plans especially, there are certain services that are not covered. So if we have Anthem as an example at South Community for our employees. So if I go today, there are certain things that are covered under preventive care and the care that you need, but there's also restrictions. That's the same in commercial plans with mental health or substance use. They may not pay for that student that just comes in and wants to talk to Lath, the counselor, on something that may have happened last night, but he or she doesn't need ongoing services. Make sense? So what you would be providing would be a portion of the cost based on how we, with the district, looked at Snapshot. And you would reduce your cost by 2/3. In other words, you would pay 1/3 of what you had paid this past year. We would encumber and, not us on good faith, that's our risk and our, really desire to do this would be billing Medicaid, if Medicaid eligible, McSIS if it's family size and income, commercial plan if it's one we're credentialed for, and then you're covering maybe those plans that we're not credentialed for, or for that student who needs brief intervention but not ongoing intervention. And then we would, and I did not put this on here, but it is my belief, in our collaboration, we would be sitting down, instead of a Medicaid reconciliation, we would be looking, how did the school year go? How did the funding really look like? Were we right that it was 1/3 Medicaid, 1/3 commercial, 1/3, that didn't have, that the district needed to support? That is based on Snapshot. We would review that then at the end of the school year. We could come back to the board, however you all would want to do that, so we can see, did the data pan out and or what changes need to make in the future, in the future school year. So did that match what Kevin talked about, first of all, and then I would open it up for any questions, because I want to make sure that, I can explain as much as I can about what we did together in these plans to help for sustainability.
I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about the 3 therapists that you're proposing were also the 3 therapists that we were supposed to have under the original model, correct?
Yeah, to really cover your district across elementary, middle, and high school. We do have those positions filled, now at this juncture and ready to move in the fall. So what happens, and I think I put this in here, that for you, here's what doesn't change. What doesn't change, because you've really encumbered the cost before, and then we build Medicaid and we offset that cost and we reconcile that at the, in the spring of every year. And so, you're getting the same service, seamless, a seamlessness of care, because you're providing a portion. We're billing as we should on the payers that I just outlined. And then again, kids get seen, right? Families get served. So we're not going to be some outpatient in a district. We want to be in your environment. We want to be able to meet the needs of the kids, be able to settle, certainly contractually what that looks like, and then work with Kevin and his team, on that day to day. But it will be the same, it is the same staffing pattern as you had last year.
No, and I really appreciate the thought of opening this up to more students, but I guess I'm concerned that we weren't able to meet the needs of the students previously, and now we're opening it up to even more students with the same amount of therapists.
It's really, thank you. It's not more students. Being fully staffed, we can see fully the kids that you presented. The needs are there. We were not able to fill that last position. While we tried to cover it with our manager, we infused student, who are in internships. We did a lot of things to try to help meet that need. But really what you paid for previously was to really be able to embrace the idea that if a kid needed service, you were paying for that service and we would meet that need. And I know, and again, I apologize that we had the staffing challenges. I feel very good that we are fully staffed and ready to roll with you as a district. And I understand those. I get concerned about it, as well. I may not be sitting where you are, but I'm certainly sitting in my seat saying, gosh, what can we do? And I can tell you, we have tried to infuse, and we did this throughout the surge of the pandemic. We have a strong recruiting platform. We have a large net that we cast. Again, back to competitive environment, but South Community's commitment to try to do the best we can every day to serve every kid that you have with need. And also, that's why I gave the sheet of who we are behind Valley View, behind our staff here, is a robust continuum of care if he or she needs it.
I have a couple of questions here. When you say you have 3 full-time therapists, they would be full-time here, every day here, 40 hours a week?
Just for Valley View, yes.
For Valley View, okay.
Mhm.
How many students can they see each day?
Each day, that's
What
hard
does the
for me
caseload look
to
like?
answer, but typically caseload size, and again, you have movement across that. Caseload size, depending again on elementary, if need is higher, or the high school, I don't know what that day-to-day is. But on a 40-hour, week, working with your students, average caseload size is probably around 50 kids at any given time, plus being able to be part of your IET meetings or meetings that you may need, collaboration with the teachers, providing crisis intervention. I mean, they're planted in your district to be able to meet the needs according to how we've hired them, across elementary, middle, or high school.
And then the other question I had, sorry, I'm recovering from COVID, so
You're
brain
fine.
fog there for a second. My next question would be that, so your providers are credentialed right now with Anthem and United Healthcare, and you're looking possibly at Medical Mutual as well?
Yeah, that's the third commercial plan.
And those are the only ones right now that South Community
Right
providers
now,
are?
yes. And what happens with the commercial plans, and just to have this, it's not a caveat, it's just how the commercial plans work. Typically, they do not credential dependent license, they credential independent. So like an independent social worker, independently licensed professional counselor. So there, again, with you paying a portion, the third of the cost, there may be a situation that maybe it's a dependent licensed person that can't take that plan, but that youth is covered. But we're committed, as to how we hire and getting them credentialed. We're trying to work that every day. And there's legislation that is starting to change in Medicare, and hopefully down the road, commercial plans will see the need to credential all licensed individuals.
So these three individuals that you have for Valley View are independent or dependent?
They're a mix of both, and I can get that to you. I don't want to misspeak on who has, what credential. They're all
But we have at
licensed.
least an independent,
Pardon?
at least one independent.
I think we do, but I don't want to misspeak, and I'll get that back to you through Kevin if that will work.
Yes, that'd be great, thank you.
I should have brought that. That was a great question. Sorry.
That's the world in which I work, so, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lisa.
And if you need anything, you have my card, and again, appreciate the time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Roman numeral 3B, public participation. We have one individual, Ms. Kathy Young.
Standing here?
Probably the best microphone's going to be right there.
Okay, this is okay, right? This is perfect. Okay, thank you. Hello again, Valley View board members. My name is Kathy Yon. I live at 6174 Conservancy Road. And once again, I'm here as part of a large group of community members that want to restate our concerns about President Timothy Rudd's continued use of local social media to discuss divisive issues, and his statements that he would reference those discussions in making decisions about school policies. 6 of our group members spoke here on 6/28 to inform you all of the hurtful commenting that involved in these threads, as well as the intolerant nature of many of Mr. Rudd's comments. As you recall, a motion to remove Mr. Rudd as president was introduced, but did not pass. On June 29th, on his personal page, Mr. Rudd posted that he would ask the board to schedule a public work session to discuss how to better engage the public as the board to better discern what is most important to them. Further down in this post, he stated, "I will not support a discussion behind closed doors out of public eye." While this seemed initially like a positive response to the concerns expressed by our group, it is worth noting that the post appeared only on Mr. Rudd's personal page and not on the local larger platforms he had been using. So its reach was very limited, and I further suggest that his statement at the end about what type of meeting he would support could be viewed as bypassing input from board members and even possibly dictating their actions. And I'm also saddened to tell you that Mr. Rudd has continued his concerning use of social media. On July 4th, Mr. Rudd replied to a post in the Valley View Spartans Germantown Farmersville page that asked questions about how a Cincinnati-based branch of the Proud Boys came to be present at and march in our July 4th parade. The presence of this highly controversial group generated lengthy debate on both sides, those defending their right to be there and those challenging it. It should be noted that this group has been declared a terrorist organization in New Zealand and Canada and declared a hate group by the long-standing established Southern Poverty Law Center. Proud Boy national leadership has been indicted and subpoenaed for their role in the January 6th events at the Capitol building that resulted in an insurrection against our government. In a later discussion, Mr. Rudd stated, "I don't take hate group designations from organizations such as SPLC at face value, and that he did not trust the decisions of many other government groups that investigate groups like them." He also defended the Proud Boys' right to free speech based on the ACLU's successful defense of a Nazi group's right to free speech in a decision made way back in 1973. I have grave concerns with our board president placing little value on the opinions of other groups who have long-standing track records of impartiality and transparency, and especially when there is such overwhelming public record evidence dictating the efforts and interests of this self-declared group of proud white male chauvinists. Again, on July 7th, Mr. Rudd posed questions to the community again in the Valley View Spartans page. This time, he posted a disclaimer at the start stating he was doing so as an individual, not the Board of Ed, but then proceeded to ask what the district should do to protect its students and guard its events from becoming showcases for people's political viewpoints. He referenced the discussion about the parade and asked, should the board consider adopting a content-neutral policy restricting assembly and demonstration at or during concerts, sporting events, performances, etc. This inquiry could be interpreted as suggesting that those of us who have been challenging Mr. Rudd's publicly stated opinions about LGBTQ plus youth, arming teachers in schools, and discussing politics in the classroom might be stopped from continuing to share our ideas about the need to promote inclusion and acceptance of all in our schools. We clearly stated our motivation in presenting the challenge to his statements was to create schools where all feel welcomed, heard, and safe. While Mr. Rudd's question was done by directly referring to the original July 4th conversation, this reaction does not feel to be an adequate summation of the concerns that were actually addressed to him in that first post. In that post on July 7th, numerous participants asked him to state his opinion on the Proud Boys, and Mr. Rudd refused to do so, and instead defended their right to free speech based on the First Amendment. Participants challenged his assertions, which he failed to acknowledge, and then he taunted one participant by suggesting that once he had passed the bar exam with a 98%, as Mr. Rudd had, then he would then be qualified to challenge the assertion. The arrogance of this comment was striking, as this comment was made to a well-respected member of city government. In social media conversations several weeks prior, Mr. Rudd denounced the existence of gender non-conforming individuals as someone else's delusion, but then was later unwilling to denounce the Proud Boys, despite the overwhelming evidence from January 6th. While Mr. Rudd does have the right to form opinions and to voice them, I submit that as a board member, he also has a responsibility to weigh his right to express them against the hurtful impact they may have on others, especially students that might be reading them. This is not about attacking Mr. Rudd. This is about challenging his behavior on social media. Again, I ask the board, is this how you want our community and our schools to be represented? Is this what you want our students to be reading on social media? I submit that you can and must find a better way to seek community input. Thank you for your time.
Roman numeral 4, approval of the minutes, regular board meeting of June 28, 2022, and special board meeting of June 28, is that right? Is that-
We had a special and a regular.
We had a special and regular on the 28th? Okay, and, okay, special meeting of June 28, 2022, and June 30, 2022. Everybody's had a chance to review the minutes. Someone like to make a motion to approve them?
Actually, if we can just make a correction, it doesn't matter which title you choose to use for me, but you were kind of going back and forth on that, so
I
sometimes you're.
apologize.
No offense taken whatsoever. I just didn't want people to read it and think maybe there were two different Smiths present.
I will say, if we're okay to accept that on correction, I'll go back and review
Sure,
it.
Yeah.
perfect.
To make sure.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, all in favor? Oh, I guess call the roll. Listen, I do a couple different meetings, and this is not the all in favor one. Please call the roll.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Roman numeral 5A, recommend the board approve the financial statements for the month of June 30, 2022. Attached is attachment number 2. Everyone's had a chance to review them. Would you like to speak to those, Valerie, or?
Yes, I have some notes, highlights. We did close out, and we closed out the fiscal year, so we have 12 months worth of data. Our revenue was higher than projected, primarily because of the income tax and the new state funding formula. And our actual costs were slightly lower than projected in the benefits area. So because of the increase in revenue, our cash balance ended higher than we had anticipated, and our PI cash balance is higher than we had projected as well.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the financial statements for the month of ending June 30, 2022.
Makes a motion.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Roman numeral 5B, recommend the board accept the following non-public students and their school attendants whose parents accept transportation reimbursement for the 21-22 school year.
So moved. So moved.
Okay. Do I need to read the rest of that, or can we just stop there?
It'd probably be good for the record.
Yeah, I'll probably go ahead and read the rest. Approve payment at state minimum reimbursement rate for the school year for type 4 pupils as reported on the T1 transportation report on October 21st and on subsequent amendments. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Valerie, would you like to explain to us what this is?
This is something that we do every year. We have students who attend chartered non-public schools, and we offer a payment in lieu of transporting those students there. One thing I want to mention is that the cost has changed from last year to this year. It's increased by about double, and that is dictated by law, by statute.
And the amount of people doing it is more, correct?
It's a little bit more, but it's about
Yeah.
pretty flat. Not a great change there. The law did change back in September, and we will be back in August with a resolution for you to pass to bring us into compliance with the law passed in September.
Would you please call the roll?
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Roman numeral 5C, recommend the board approve a donation from the Walker Auto Group to the K-6 STEM program in the amount of $2,500. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Other than a big thank you to the Walker Auto Group. I appreciate folks in our community that want to support in this kind of way. Valerie, would you please call the roll?
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Roman numeral 6A, personnel. Approve personnel action as recommended in attachment number 3. Do we have a motion?
There is an error in the typing, and under Todd Kazarik's, that would be August 1st, 2023 to 2026.
2023 to 26.
2026.
Isn't he going in August? No? It's a year from now. Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. Has someone make a motion that we approve the personnel action as recommended?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So clarification, this will start in 2023?
He has 1 year left on his contract.
Okay.
It was current contract.
Gotcha.
Please call the roll.
Mr. DeGroat,
Yes.
Mrs. Eisner,
Yes.
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore,
Yes.
Dr. Smith.
Yes.
Roman numeral 7, superintendent's comments. Mr. Superintendent.
First one I have is that at the August board meeting, we will need to approve representatives from the board and the district, I believe, to be on the JED group. And so we will bring you 2 names to have that approved in August. I think most of you are aware of the JED formation.
Yep.
And we hope to have Ryan Watson here
Watson.
at the August board meeting to explain this. So he'll explain to you a little better. I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be working to try to receive some grant money for an SRO in our buildings. It's kind of late in the year to be doing that, but to me, we need to get something done, and anymore with as crazy it is out there to protect our children. I think that's something that needs to be done. We did have a core meeting today, and I'll let Bob explain that. It ran real well, and I hopefully in the next, I'm going to say it, in the next week and a half, there'll be action out there. So, on a new building.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Board member comments. Ben.
I'm just excited to see something happen out there besides mowing. You get dirt moving would be really nice.
Isn't it done?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited for that project to start. That's all I got.
Stephanie?
Yeah, so I appreciate Kathy coming and talking. Very well spoken. Thank you. And I do feel strongly that we need to work on how we communicate with the community. And I think everybody has a right to be heard, but I also want to make sure that, again, as she mentioned, if students are reading, that no one's getting any additional distress from it. And I think we need to work on this sooner rather than later. I'd like to see a real formal plan on how we're going to reach out to community members. One question I have, and Valerie, you don't have to answer this today, but I'm curious, when we did mailings in the past, what was the cost to that? And then if we've ever done any paper surveys in the past, what was our response rate? And you may or may not have that information on how long ago anything like that's gone out. But certainly I feel that it's important for us to talk about that. We all do receive a journal from the Ohio School Board Association each month. And within this, there was actually an article that spoke about social media. So it was very timely. The legal landscape of social media for districts. It did not say that we were prohibited from asking questions, but there were some different things that we had to put out there, such as disclaimers. You are speaking only for yourself, not for the board. The unfortunate thing with social media, as we all know, I don't think this is a news revelation for anybody, is that people tend to be far more bold behind a computer screen. And things that they wouldn't necessarily say in person, they are more apt to hide behind the screen and say things just to generate animosity or shock value or whatever you would have it. I don't personally feel responsible for what happens with parades I'm just going to set that out there. There is a parade committee. How or why certain people are allowed in the parade, that's beyond our scope. And we just can't take that on. Quite frankly, as much as I love hearing from you, I'm ready to work on academics here. That's why I ran. And so while those, I'm not trying to minimize your concerns, but I really want to focus on academics. I've talked to Joe earlier this week about the information Nicole Thomas has shared with us with how we have or haven't moved with our grades in the various different grades in the last 4 years. We know nationally all of the kids have slipped with their academics over the last year and a half, 2 years because of COVID. To me, safety is one thing and education is the second thing. And I think that those are my huge priorities right now. And I do read each and every post on Facebook. You will not find me ever respond. I won't. Okay. For two reasons. I don't want to get into a situation where we may be violating sunshine laws. Okay. And number two, that's not the place where I feel like those conversations myself should be had. But he in every right has every right to, as a person, legally putting his disclaimer out to ask those questions. I would like to find ways to reach out to everybody because not everybody's on social media and not everybody will respond on social media, such as myself included. So finding ways to reach out to the community so that they can be heard, super important, okay? So I do listen. I may be quiet. Doesn't mean I'm not paying attention because I sure am. Okay? All right.
Spencer?
Yeah, I appreciate Kathy coming tonight, and again, I want to apologize for Mr. Rudd's behavior on social media. He does, as Stephanie said, apparently have a right to do so, but it is embarrassing and it's not representative of this district or this board. It is very divisive. It's not helpful, and we do have bigger things to focus on other than creating division within our district. I want to thank the Walkers for their donation. That it was incredibly kind and will be super helpful to our K-6 STEM program, especially as that becomes one of our specials this year, in addition to phys ed and music and art. And I just want to say thank you to all of the hard work that our facility staff is doing right now. I'm up at the school every day, dropping kids off, picking kids up. And I see everybody working hard to get our school ready and our classrooms ready. And I can't believe that we're about to start the next school year. But the schools look fantastic, and I just want to thank you for all your hard work.
Bob?
Yeah, I've got a couple different things. The first thing is I do think we need to, as a board, get together and discuss ways to communicate with the public. I brought that up last time. Hopefully, maybe we can have a work session like we talked about before a meeting. The public can come and listen, and we can try to come up with some better ways to reach out to people. Totally different topic, as Mr. Schaller said. We had a core meeting today. The guaranteed maximum price, the GMP, is supposed to be ready for us to vote on by the September 12th meeting. Hopefully we'll get information on that preceding that, but the actual vote should happen on September 12th. Ben said he's glad to see some stuff getting done. Well, today they told us on Wednesday or Thursday, one or the other, they're going to be out there putting stakes in the ground for where the fence is going to be. And then the plan is for Monday, they will start building the fence and start moving dirt. And then one final thing, the Montgomery County Fair started yesterday, and Valley View is always really well represented there. I hope if you have an opportunity to get out that you can, you'll see lots of Valley View students there.
Thanks, Bob. My comments are just a couple things. One, we're going to be looking forward to, and I believe at the next meeting in August, we're going to have a student representative recommended to us. And so that'll be coming up, and we're looking forward to that. We did get a chance to interview some great young people. And so I'm excited about that. That's a presence that, frankly, these last couple of meetings has been missed at the table. And so looking forward to that. Two, I think it's important to address some of what Ms. Yan had to say. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. There was one statement that I had posted something as if there was something surreptitious only on my own and not on the public page. Actually, if you look, I posted that on my own accidentally on the 29th of June. The next morning when I woke up seeing friends from high school commenting on it and wondering what they had to do with Valley View, I posted it on the community page. You can look. Ms. Shauna Jones actually followed the tally in the thread on that. It reached over 1,900 people within a week. And so my statement that I would like for there to be a public discussion of how best to communicate with the community wasn't disingenuous, and it wasn't just for my friends and family. It was put out there and it was received and engaged. Two, and I think this is also important, I again will never respond to anyone's characterizations of my statement. Happen to think what I had to say about the parade board, which is not a school board issue, but we're talking about it anyway, was pretty darn good First Amendment scholarship. It's accurate. It's the exact same thing that the City of Germantown's council told them when they said, what can we do about this? It's basic First Amendment. And whether you like what someone has to say or not, you got to stand for the right to say it, because one day when your opinion becomes unpopular, people will want to shut you down. That's not how it's supposed to be. Ideas are supposed to be able to stand or fall in the public realm. That's enough for me to say about that. Lastly, and I think probably the most important thing I've done this week is I got a chance to, at my initiative, sit down with reps from the teachers union and with Mr. Scholler this morning, bright and early, 8 a.m., to discuss options and issues. And I think we had a good discussion. I think we have a clearer understanding of one another. I certainly think I have a better understanding of some of the concerns raised by the teachers. And so one thing that was brought to my attention that I think is a great thing, the OSBA actually has resources to facilitate boards doing surveys and collecting data analysis. So I'm going to be looking into those. Now, the downside to that is that requires 3 people out of 5 to agree on whether to do it or not. And the person who's in the minority, who might want the data that the other people don't want, still is going to have the options. But we need to look into use of those resources. I have also told the representatives from the teacher union that I will be glad to extend the courtesy of posing any question to them before I ever pose it to the community. So no one's going to feel like they're going to be cut out. And so I'm going to continue to be transparent. If somebody wants to know what I think, I'm going to tell them. And dang it, that's just how I happen to be. Turns out that I'm the same person out in front of a keyboard as I am behind it. And so I'm going to make sure to do that. But I think we can find a way that brings the energy level down a little bit. I'm all for that in some circumstances, and I think this is one. So I'm looking forward to moving forward, and that's really all I have to say. So I think the next agenda item is Roman numeral 9, executive session to discuss personnel. Joe, there are some issues you'd like to discuss, and so one of us needs to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel, so I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Valerie, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Pedro?
Yes.
Mrs. Iver?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore? Yes. Dr. Smith?